SaaS companies, B2B companies, they've been wasting money for a long time. About time it gets a bit more efficient. Actually, our goal is to turn a no into a yes. Numbers talk. So whenever you see numbers, whenever you see the comments, whenever you see that, try and look at it from an objective view, because the new stuff is usually what stands out, and that disrupts the patterns. But well, segue into my formula.
Hey everybody, today we will discuss about sexy ads. And here with me is Joseph Hill. He's the director of digital strategy at Metadata and managed more than $100 million in B2B ad spend. And he also created this amazing, the ultimate LinkedIn ad library. So, Joseph, I know you have a lot and a ton of experience in advertising, ad spend, also in ad design, most especially for this niche that you are talking about, the sexy ads. So, and who said, and that's very interesting because whenever I hear about the B2B advertising and B2B ads, they are somehow boring, they are somehow very normal, but you are coming with this concept of sexy ads. So what it is a sexy ad?
Yeah, so I guess a sexy ad is something which stands out. I think a lot of the time when you work in B2B, you work in kind of corporate type language, and we can get bogged down in very boring brand guidelines, and we can almost it's kind of a pain to read a lot of B2B ads. They're just so corporate, and it's like when you come to social media, you want to read things that are funny, you want to read ads that are spoken to, like the copy's like a human. And if you look at any of the top copywriting influencers, they're always saying the same things, like speak like a human, try and like disrupt certain patterns and things like that. So a sexy ad is something that takes your message, basically communicates it in a way that is nice to digest and not a pain. And yeah, and then also has a high percentage of people actually reading your ads because they're not boring. to be completely frank.
So great ad can be boring, awesome ad can be boring, but sexy ad is not boring, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's something that it's just speaking like a human. It's a bit more social, because that's if we're advertising on social media, it needs to be social. It needs to be fun. It needs to be kind of you don't want to be if you're scrolling past and you have like someone's post that you know, and they're posting something cool and funny, and you're like, oh, great. And then you go to the next post, something's cool, something's funny again. And you go to the next post and it's an ad and it's boring. It's like, you're just going to scroll straight past it to something that entertains you more. So it's something that fits in with all the other stuff on social media.
So in your on your Google slides that you shared a few weeks ago, you say that a sexy ad is when the copy and visual tell a good story, and I love that. Like it's an amazing idea. So, but after I have read this and I was looking to all these ads, there was one specific question that somehow pop up in my mind. Which come first, the copy or the visual?
Okay. Well, they're supposed to. Let me share my screen. I've got a good. It's a tough question, that. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? I guess, like, this is the diagram with a little bit more detail, but it's like clear copy, relevant visual, and a powerful story. Now, the truth is that before anything, your story comes first. Like, it needs to be focused on solving problems, show that you can solve the problem, and have a clear benefit of solving that problem, and put the hero at the center. That comes first before everything. You really need to figure out your message. You really need to make sure that your message is good, because no matter what ad or copy or visual you make, if you haven't got a good story, people are just going to scroll straight past it. It doesn't matter how good your ad is. But once you've got that story, first comes your copy, because you've got to take that story and turn that into words so you can communicate, right? Once you've got the story, you've then started to create the copy, and when you need to keep the message short, avoid really big words, vary your sentence length, speak like a human, all those good things. Then it's like, okay, cool. Well, I can only use a certain amount of words. Say I've got a headline in the image, which is like 10 words or maybe less than 10, right? I've only got 10 words. Like, you can't really tell a story with just 10 words. You need something to further that story and give more context. So there's an old saying, obviously everyone's heard it, a picture says 1,000 words or something along. I've probably butchered that saying, but the idea is a picture tells 1,000 words. Well, words. You need that visual to further that. So your headline should be a very short introduction to your story, the problems that you solve, what you solve. And then the visual puts more context behind that, puts more flavor to that story. So a really good one that we created at Metadata, let me just go back, is the problem with running ads natively, right? So Metadata is all about, you can run ads natively in channels, but you want to focus on quality over quantity. Come into Metadata and we'll basically improve your B2B SaaS advertising. So you basically generate revenue, right? Now, in here, the problem with running ads natively, that's the introduction. But this visual, we've got Facebook, LinkedIn, and AdWords logos. We've got a hamster in a wheel, and the hamster is swearing. So obviously, you can see that that story is, there's a problem with running ads natively. Sometimes you can feel like you're in a hamster wheel and you're running around and you can get frustrated. That was way more words than's in the ad, but you get that story because of that visual.
Yeah, so you didn't choose like a stock image where someone is with their head in their palm and they're just staying right there and it's frustrating. You created like a visual, and when you will see a hamster that is swearing on LinkedIn, you will stop and read also the copy and try to understand what's behind everything. So, and right now that you're talking about metadata, this is something very interesting because I've done a webinar with Jonathan Bland from OmniLab, and he shared metadata as an example on how to create zero-click ads, and you were like a full example on how you can use this concept of zero-click ads and create these visuals. And I was very interested about, okay, what's the process behind creating the ads in your company? Like, how do you come up with the concept? How, and taking the launches and taking the insight and everything? Can you take us through this process?
Yeah, 100%. Again, I'm more on the client side of Metadata, helping support clients. So I'm not behind the weeds, but it's essentially the same kind of process where you really need to figure out, like I said, your story. So what is the problem you solve? What is the solution? So how do you solve it? And then your benefit, which is why you should solve it. Once you know that and you've done your homework, and honestly, it's not the most like sexy work to do. It's quite like you're researching, you're talking to customers, you're Googling things, maybe you're chat GPTing questions, whatever it is. And you're trying to find out what is this? And then you're also trying to validate that with your customers. And that's what Metadata does really well, is like, we know that B2B marketers are out there. They've driven, 10,000 leads and like they've got one meeting off the back of it. That's a pain point from B2B marketers. So if you're doing all this work, you're generating all these leads and they're all from good titles, they're all classed as MQLs, but then you're still not seeing revenue and meetings off the back of it, that annoys you. So it's like, that is a real pain point. And because we're a marketer, like we're a marketing team selling to marketers, it's a little bit easier for us because we've been there, we've been in the shoes, and that's what Metadata is. It's a marketing tool built by marketers. So it's actually quite easy for us to find our story. But for other companies, it's not. You're a marketer and you're selling to a different persona. And that's where you might have to spend more time on this than anything. And then after a year goes by, you really need to delve into this and think, you know what, maybe it's changed. Maybe the environment's changed. There's so many things that can happen in environments that are new pain points, new problems. And for example, the marketing landscape has changed. Like now user-generated content and TikTok and all that stuff has just been thrown in. So like, how does Metadata help with that? Well, I don't know, wait and see. But I guess, yeah, it all starts with the story. But once you've got that story, then you really also need to think about creating that powerful hook. Like, how can we get people actually to come and talk to our sales team or sign up to our MetaMatch product, which is our product-led growth function where you can sign up for a MetaMatch trial, you get access to all of our audiences for free, and then you kind of try it out. We need to come up with that hook. So like, why should they meet? And there's so many ways to come up with a hook, but essentially our goal is to turn a no into a yes, right? And everyone doesn't want to talk to sales. Like, sales have a bad rep. We don't want to get sold to. We kind of think they're just out there with their vested interests. So we come up with our story. We then recognize that people do not tend to want to talk to sales. So we need to turn the no into a yes. And once we've turned that no into a yes, it might be through a variety of different ways of putting together hooks. But once we've done that, then we obviously have to follow the method of clear copy, relevant visual, powerful story. And then it all comes together and it becomes a lot easier. But that's like, it's like a tip of the iceberg. You see an advert and that's the tip of an iceberg of a marketer's work. Like, below the sea level, you really need to put work into your story, really need to go into the copy, go through it, edit it, make sure it stands out. And then you've got to somehow turn that into a visual. And again, the best ads, the best visuals come from time, focus, taking that time out of your day to focus on that messaging, because it's so, so important.
So, you said about the UGC creators, and I was thinking about this idea on we will in the future or now in the present, there are like, or do you believe that we will have B2B UGC creators on LinkedIn?
100%. We're already doing a bit of UGC for metadata now. We've played around with the idea of the vertical ads, having someone create something like a TikTok ad. You see Tim Davidson, he's like the king of UGC on LinkedIn. I don't know if you've come across his stuff, but he like slices fruit while he talks about marketing, which is like, it's such a, you're like, oh, that's a stupid idea. It's not, because it's like, it's something interesting whilst you're talking about an idea. And if you look on YouTube Shorts, Instagram, you kind of have like these clips of people talking on podcasts, and below that there's just like a video game. And it's like, why on earth would you have 2 videos in a video? And it's like, well, it gives you so much stimulation that you're still focusing on it, and it's all within one piece of UGC. So shout out Tim Davidson, he's great at the UGC. And there's obviously a huge opportunity for people to create things that aren't corporate, that do stand out, that do disrupt patterns and scrolling patterns. And the people who do that first are going to win. And it might be 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, UGC is a common thing to include in advertising. And there's going to be a new thing that we have to think about. But the early adopters often win, and especially in SaaS and things like that. If you see people doing stuff and it's a little bit different, I wouldn't look at it with tinted eyes and think, you know what, that's stupid. Why are they doing TikTok types of stuff on LinkedIn? LinkedIn is a different platform. It's supposed to be professional, but you have people posting selfies, getting 5, 10 times the engagement on LinkedIn post than someone who posts a text post. And it's like, well, why are they posting selfies? And it's like, numbers talk. So whenever you see numbers, whenever you see the comments, whenever you see that, try and look at it from an objective view, because the new stuff is usually what stands out, and that disrupts the patterns.
Yeah, I believe so, and I believe it's the common saying that when they zig, you zag, and even if you saw it on TikTok, and hey, that's a common behavior on TikTok. Why do you bring that common behavior here on LinkedIn? It's because you want to attract that attention, and you want to also maintain the attention and then convert that attention. And you are doing very well that on LinkedIn. And I love your Google slide. And I was thinking about, like, on your Google slides that you created, like, if you can take like 3 actionable tips or advices for a designer that is doing these ad creatives based on your entire experience on gathering all these more than 100 real LinkedIn ad examples, which one do you think people can get, like 3 takeaways?
Awesome. Well, segue into my formula. So yeah, like if there was anything I would take away from this, it would be, number 1, you need to think about your story and you need to think about your hook, right? It's not good enough having a good message. If you come and say, look, I can solve your problems, I can connect with the pain you're experiencing, and I can be your savior, fine, that's great. But you might have 10 different people in your market doing that. So like, why should they choose you to solve their problems with? And it's, well, you need a hook, right? So in this situation, we've got a very powerful hooks. Now, to think about an ad, think about your image is like the book cover to your advert, right? So the image comes first, that's what's going to be read. If you intrigue someone good enough in your image, they will then head over to this ad copy and see what else you're saying about it. And then you'll make your way back down and you'll have a look at the headline and maybe just glance at it because it's only a few words. You might look at the image and then headline and then go back up the top, or you look at the image, go up here and then go down. But whatever it is, the image comes first. So you need a very, very simple headline, a very powerful visual, and then a hook if you want them to take an action and going forward. And obviously that's the biggest thing marketers struggle with, is getting the sign up to happen, getting the meeting to happen. So that's really the importance of a hook. So really simple, do not put too many words. So you can see double your pipeline, not your budget or workload. That's just a powerful headline. It resonates with the problems. It's saying basically that we can be their savior. And then we've got a $100 gift card. You'll get that $100 after a demo. And we've said that with the least amount of words possible, and we're speaking like a human. That's the most important thing. After that, the ad copy at the top, talk more about the problems that you solve, talk more about the solution that you solve, talk more about, give context to the fact that you're going to take a 30-minute demo and after you'll get $100. Like, give more context in that section at the top. But then another thing that I see is you have a disconnect between designers and copywriters, or the people who are in social, right? Everyone in social knows you have a headline here at the bottom and you can choose that to be your call to action. And sometimes it's as simple as saying, book your demo today, get your free download, download your free report, talk with an expert today. It needs to be actionable. This is where you have your chance to give more clarity on what that next step is. There's no need to have CTAs in the image. Now, obviously, A/B test what works for your brand, but I've seen a lot of results from taking your CTA out of your image, keeping it down here to simplify the message overall and make it work as a sum of all parts rather than trying to do everything in the image, then everything up top, then everything in the headline. So, yeah, think about your ad as an accumulation of all its parts and try and follow this form. This formula is pretty much, if I looked at all the adverts, all the ad spend I've made, this is usually where the ads stand out from the crowd.
Okay. So as my last question, because you gave us a lot of insights and a lot of thinking, and they are like awesome, and it was like a Harvard class for ad design. I have like a, let's say, like a common question everybody's talking about in the advertising industry, especially on LinkedIn. Like, what kind of ad do you think works better on LinkedIn? Static, video, or animated?
So I'm going to say animated now because of the recent updates on LinkedIn. So you can now basically have an ad. So you used to have to choose between an image or a video. And if you had a video, if you clicked the video, it would pause it and it would play it. And it would pop up the solutions or whatever the little features of what you can do with the video, make it full screen, make it short. And so a lot of people would run image ads and they'd perform better because wherever you click on the ad, it's going to go to that next page. It's going to go to the landing page to open the form or whatever that be. But now there's a best of both worlds where you can have a GIF type format. So you could have this ad and then the gift card just be bouncing out just to get the attention, but it's still simple. And this is the problem that I have. Like when I recommend like, oh, video can be really powerful. It can, but a bad video is so much worse than a bad image because it can go on forever and it's like forcing you to sit around and wait for it. So my default is focus on images because it forces people to condense their message down to a reasonable amount that someone's likely to read. So is it reasonable that we can get 1 second of a person's time to read this headline? Yes. So that's why the ad performs well. Is it reasonable to sit around for 3.5 minutes to get drip fed different bits about your very slow moving video? It's not reasonable. So I would have said image. Now I'd probably say GIF because it takes the best part of the image and makes it move.
Great. Joseph, thank you very much. I believe that whatever people will do here with their ads, they have also to test it. But what you said with the insights that you came right now, and I believe that there are some very interesting ideas people should take and should also execute on them. But Joseph, again, thank you very much. We'll let the link in description to your LinkedIn, and people should follow the Sexy Ad hashtag, because there you will get all the insights, all the information, and all the fun stuff Joseph is talking about on his LinkedIn. Again, Joseph, thank you very much. That was great.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob.